The morning everything changed started like any other Tuesday in my cramped studio apartment in downtown Phoenix. The Arizona sun was already brutal at 7 a.m., and my ancient air conditioning unit wheezed like a dying animal in the corner. I'd been living there for 8 months, ever since my world collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. 8 months since Parker died. 8 months since I lost my job at the textile factory. 8 months since I discovered what depression actually felt like. Not the blues, not sadness, but that black hole that swallows everything. Appetite, sleep, hope, the will to shower or change clothes. I was sitting at my kitchen table, which was really just a folding card table I'd bought at Goodwill, staring at my last unemployment check. $347. That was it. That was all that stood between me and complete destitution. The phone rang. "Mom?" Kate's voice was bright, artificially cheerful in that way that immediately put me on guard. My daughter only called when she wanted something, and she only used that tone when she was about to ask for something she knew I wouldn't want to give. "Hello, sweetheart." I kept my voice neutral, though my heart was already racing. Kate was 34, married to that spineless man-child Adam, and living in a house that was worth more than everything I'd ever owned combined. She had 2 kids, Emma and Jake, who I barely saw anymore despite living in the same city. "So, I have some news," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Adam and I bought a new place. Well, not new exactly, but new to us. It's this amazing property in Scottsdale, and Mom, you should see it. 5 bedrooms, a pool, a 3-car garage." I listened to her gush about granite countertops and walk-in closets while my stomach clenched tighter with each word. I knew what was coming. I'd seen this movie before. "That's wonderful, honey," I managed. "I'm happy for you." "Well, that's actually why I'm calling. Here it comes. Adam's mother, she's been struggling since his father passed. She's all alone in that big house, and we thought she should move in with us. Not in the main house, of course, but there's this beautiful guest cottage on the property. It's like a little apartment, completely separate, with its own kitchen and everything." My chest tightened. That sounds perfect for her. It is. She's so excited. We're going to help her sell her place and get settled. It'll be like having live-in help with the kids, She's so good with them. Unlike me, apparently. The words hung in the air, unspoken, but loud as a scream. "And Mom," Kate continued, her voice taking on that careful, calculated tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "There's something else. There's this little storage room behind the main house. It's not much, just a concrete room, really, but it has electricity and running water. We thought maybe you'd like to move in there, just temporarily, while you get back on your feet." The words hit me like a physical blow. A storage room. She was offering me a storage room while giving her mother-in-law a cottage. I don't understand." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Oh, Mom, don't be dramatic. It's got everything you need. A bed would fit, and there's a little sink. It's better than that awful apartment you're in now, isn't it? And you'd be close to the grandkids. Emma asks about you all the time." No, she doesn't, I thought, but didn't say. Emma was 12 and had been systematically turned against me over the years through 1,000 small cruelties, 1,000 subtle implications that Grandma Donatella was the poor relation, the one who didn't have nice things, who didn't matter. "Kate, I need to think about this." "What's to think about? Mom, you're about to lose your apartment. I know you are. You think I don't know you're behind on rent? At least this way you'd have a roof over your head and you'd be with family." Family. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. "And besides," she continued, her voice hardening just slightly, you're used to making do with less. You've always been good at that. You should be grateful you're not being left on the street." There it was. The knife slipped between my ribs so smoothly I almost didn't feel it at first. You're used to misery. You should be grateful for scraps. I closed my eyes and saw Parker's face, the way he'd looked at me on our wedding day 35 years ago, full of hope and promise. The way he'd held my hand when the doctor told us Kate would be our only child. The way he'd encouraged me to pursue my sewing, to dream of maybe opening my own shop someday. "We'll set up the seamstress corner in the guest room," he used to say. "Once Kate moves out, you can turn it into a proper studio." But Kate never really moved out. Not emotionally. She took and took and took. And when Parker got sick, she was too busy with her own life to help. Too busy to visit. Too busy for the funeral. Too busy to care that her mother was drowning in medical bills and grief. "I have to go," I said. "Mom, wait. When can you move in? We're having a family dinner on Sunday to celebrate Adam's promotion, and I'd love for you to be there. In your new place. Your new place. A storage room behind her house." "I'll call you back," I said, and hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone, feeling something cold and hard settling in my chest. It wasn't grief anymore. It wasn't even anger. It was something else, something that felt like clarity. I'd given Kate everything, literally everything. When she and Adam were first married and struggling, I'd given them my savings, $15,000 that was supposed to be for my retirement. When they couldn't afford their first house, I'd co-signed the loan and made payments when they couldn't. When Emma was born, I'd quit my job to help with childcare for 6 months, unpaid. And now, when I needed help, when I was drowning, she was throwing me a life preserver made of concrete and calling it generosity. The phone rang again. This time it was my landlord. "Mrs. Cornell, I'm sorry, but I need to know about next month's rent. You're already 3 weeks late on this month and I can't." "I understand, Mr. Rodriguez. I'll be out by the end of the week." "Mrs. Cornell, wait. I didn't mean..." But I'd already hung up. I wasn't Mrs. Cornell. That was Parker's name, the name I'd carried with pride for 35 years. But Parker was gone, and apparently, so was the woman I used to be. I looked around my pathetic little apartment, at the cardboard boxes I'd been living out of for months, at the sewing machine I'd had to sell 6 months ago to pay for Parker's medication. Everything I'd built, everything I'd been, reduced to this. But maybe that was exactly what I needed. Maybe it was time to find out who Donatella really was, underneath all the layers of sacrifice and self-denial. Maybe it was time to stop being grateful for scraps. 3 days later, I stood in the driveway of Kate's new house in Scottsdale. My entire life packed into the back of a borrowed pickup truck from my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. The house was obscene in its opulence. A sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion with manicured lawns that probably cost more to maintain each month than I used to make in 2. Kate emerged from the front door wearing a designer sundress that cost more than my monthly rent, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the 110-degree heat. Behind her trailed Adam, soft and pale like uncooked dough, carrying a glass of what looked like mimosa at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. "Mom, you made it!" Kate's enthusiasm felt as artificial as the lawn. "Come on, let me show you to your space." Your space, not your room or your apartment. Your space, like I was a storage unit with feelings. We walked around the side of the house, past the guest cottage where Adam's mother Diane would be living. Through the pristine windows, I could see her already settled in, arranging flowers in a crystal vase on a granite countertop. She looked up and waved, her smile genuine and warm, for Kate and Adam. When her eyes met mine, the smile flickered and died like a candle in the wind. "Diane's been such a help already," Kate chattered as we walked. "She's amazing with the kids, and she's such a good cook. Last night she made this incredible beef Wellington and..." She caught herself, probably remembering that I hadn't been invited to dinner. "Well, anyway, she's wonderful. Unlike me." Again, the words hung in the air, unspoken but understood. We reached the back of the property, where a small concrete building squatted like a bunker against the back fence. It had one window, streaked with dirt, and a heavy wooden door that looked like it belonged on a prison cell. "Here we are," Kate announced with the kind of forced brightness people use when showing you the scene of an accident. "Your new home." She pushed open the door, and the smell hit me first. Musty, damp, with an undertone of something that might have been mold. The space was maybe 10 by 12 feet, with concrete walls, a single overhead bulb, and a small sink in the corner that had seen better decades. The floor was stained concrete, cold even through my shoes. "See? It's got everything you need," Kate said, her voice echoing slightly in the empty space. "There's electricity, running water, and look." She pointed to a small space heater sitting in the corner. Climate control. I walked to the center of the room and turned slowly, taking it all in. This was where my daughter thought I belonged. This was what 34 years of motherhood had earned me. The previous owners used it for storage. Adam offered helpfully, speaking to me directly for the first time in months. But we cleaned it out mostly. There might be a few boxes left, but nothing important. Nothing important. Like me. Well? Kate's voice had an edge now, impatience creeping in. What do you think? I thought about the guest cottage, with its kitchenette and garden view and actual insulation. I thought about Diane, arranging flowers while I was expected to be grateful for a concrete box. I thought about the way Kate's voice changed when she talked about her mother-in-law versus when she talked about me. It's perfect, I said, and I meant it. Kate's relief was palpable. Great. Adam can help you unload your things. I have to get back. Diane's teaching me how to make her famous lasagna, and the kids will be home from school soon. They left me there, in my concrete kingdom, with my boxes and my broken dreams. I spent the first hour just sitting on the floor, back against the cold wall, letting the reality of my situation settle into my bones. This was rock bottom. This was what happened when you gave everything and expected nothing in return. You got nothing. But as the sun began to set and the harsh fluorescent light kicked on automatically, something strange happened. I started to feel not happy, exactly, but something else. Free, maybe. Like I'd finally stopped pretending that things were different than they actually were. I began unpacking my boxes, setting up my few possessions in the space. A camping cot that Mrs. Patterson had loaned me. A small table for my things. My clothes, hanging from nails I hammered into the concrete walls with a rock I found outside. It was while I was arranging my meager belongings that I noticed them. The boxes Adam had mentioned, stacked in the far corner and covered with a tarp. Nothing important, he'd said. But something about them nagged at me. I pulled away the tarp and found 6 large cardboard boxes, all identical, all sealed with professional shipping tape. The labels were addressed to previous owner with no specific name, and the return address was from a company called Heritage Textiles, Portland, Oregon. Textiles. My heart started beating faster. I found a box cutter in my purse and carefully sliced through the tape on the first box. Inside, nestled in protective foam, was the most beautiful sewing machine I'd ever seen. A Bernina 880 Plus, still in its original packaging, with all the manuals and accessories. I knew because I'd dreamed about owning one for 20 years. Retail price, $8,000. With trembling hands, I opened the second box. Another machine, this one a Sarger, top-of-the-line industrial quality. The third box contained an embroidery machine that probably cost more than my car. By the time I'd opened all 6 boxes, I was surrounded by a complete professional sewing setup worth more than $50,000. But that wasn't all. At the bottom of the last box, wrapped in tissue paper, were bolts of fabric. Silk, cashmere, Italian wool, French lace. Materials so fine I was afraid to touch them. There was also an envelope, yellowed with age. Inside, a letter written in an elderly woman's shaky handwriting. To whoever finds this, I am Dorothy Kleinfeld, age 89, and I am dying. These machines were my life's work, my pride and joy. I ordered them for the sewing studio I planned to open after my retirement, but cancer had other plans. My children have no interest in sewing and plan to donate everything to charity after I'm gone. But I hope, wherever these end up, they find their way to someone who will use them. Someone who understands what it means to create beauty with your hands. The fabrics are from my personal collection, gathered over 40 years of sewing. Use them well. Create something beautiful. Dorothy. I sat there in my concrete cell, surrounded by Dorothy's dreams, and something shifted inside me. Not gratitude. I was done with gratitude. Something harder, more determined. Kate thought she was giving me nothing. She thought she was putting me in my place, literally and figuratively, but she'd given me something she couldn't possibly understand. She'd given me freedom. Freedom from trying to please her. Freedom from pretending our relationship was something it wasn't. Freedom from the exhausting dance of being grateful for crumbs. And now Dorothy, this woman I'd never met, had given me the tools for something else entirely. I pulled out my phone and called Mrs. Patterson. "Donatella, how's the new place, honey?" "It's perfect," I said, and this time I really meant it. "Mrs. Patterson, I need a favor. Do you still have that business license you got for your catering company?" "Sure, but I never used it." "Why?" "I need to know how to start a business. A real business." There was silence on the other end. Then, "Donatella, what are you planning?" I looked around at the machines, at the fabric, at my concrete fortress of solitude. "I'm planning to stop being grateful," I said. "I'm planning to stop being invisible." "Good for you, honey. I'll be right over." After I hung up, I walked to the small window and looked out at the main house. I could see Kate and Diane in the kitchen, laughing over something, probably the lasagna. The kids were visible in the family room, doing homework while Adam watched TV. A perfect family scene. Without me. For the first time in months, I smiled. Really smiled. They thought they'd buried me in this concrete tomb. But they'd actually given me exactly what I needed. A workshop, a laboratory, a place where I could transform from the woman who begged for scraps into something else entirely. I had work to do. The first 3 weeks in my concrete sanctuary passed like a fever dream. While Kate and her perfect family went about their perfect lives just yards away, I was building something they couldn't see, couldn't understand, and would never have believed possible. Mrs. Patterson had been true to her word. She'd helped me file for a business license. Atelier Donatella, I'd called it, liking the sound of something so refined coming from such humble beginnings. She'd also brought over her laptop and taught me how to set up social media accounts, something I'd resisted for years but now embraced with the fervor of a convert. "You need to document everything," she'd said, her weathered hands surprisingly nimble on the keyboard. "People love a story, especially a comeback story." But I wasn't interested in a comeback story. I was interested in a revenge story. Dorothy's machines hummed to life like they'd been waiting for me. The Bernina felt like an extension of my hands, responding to my touch with a precision I'd never experienced. The fabric, God, the fabric, flowed like liquid silk and whispered secrets of what they could become. My first creation was simple. A black dress, elegant and timeless, cut from Italian wool so fine it felt like touching a cloud. I'd forgotten how much I loved this, how the rhythm of the machine and the feel of fabric between my fingers could make the world disappear. While I sewed, I couldn't hear Kate's laughter from the main house, couldn't see Adam lounging by the pool, couldn't feel the weight of their pity and dismissal. I posted a photo of the dress on Instagram at midnight, when the family was asleep, and couldn't accidentally see what their discarded mother was doing in her storage room. The caption was simple. "Every ending is a new beginning. Atelier Donatella, handcrafted Darin Phoenix." By morning, I had 50 likes and 3 direct messages asking about purchasing the dress. I stared at my phone, hardly believing what I was seeing. 50 people, strangers, had seen something I created and thought it was worth their attention. When was the last time Kate had shown that much interest in anything I'd done? The messages were even better. One was from a local boutique owner asking if I did custom work. Another was from a woman in Los Angeles who'd seen my post through a hashtag and wanted something similar for an event. The third was from someone whose profile showed she was a stylist for a local news station. That's when I knew I was onto something. I threw myself into the work with an intensity that surprised me. 18-hour days became normal. I'd wake at 5 a.m. before the family stirred, and work until after they'd gone to bed. The storage room filled with the sound of machines and the rustle of fabric, and slowly, it began to feel less like a prison and more like a command center. Kate barely acknowledged my existence. She'd wave occasionally when she saw me through the window, but she never visited, never asked what I was doing with all the electrical noise coming from my room. She was too busy playing happy families with Diane, who had indeed become the live-in grandmother I'd never been allowed to be. I watched through my small window as Diane helped with homework, attended school events, baked cookies with Emma, taught Jake how to throw a baseball. All the things I'd dreamed of doing with my grandchildren, handed to someone else while I was relegated to the shadows. But shadows, I was learning, were excellent places to work. 3 weeks in, something extraordinary happened. I'd been featured on a local fashion blogger's Instagram story. She'd found my page and fallen in love with a burgundy silk blouse I'd made. Her post called me Phoenix's hidden gem and the city's best-kept secret. Within hours, my follower count jumped from 300 to 3,000. My inbox was flooded with orders, inquiries, interview requests. The local news station that had first contacted me wanted to do a segment on local artisans making it big on social media. I was sitting at my sewing table, staring at my phone in amazement, when Kate's voice cut through my reverie. "Mom? What the hell is going on out here?" She was standing in my doorway, her perfect hair slightly mussed, holding her phone. Behind her, I could see Adam and Diane hovering curiously. "What do you mean?" I asked, not looking up from the dress I was hemming. "This." She held up her phone, showing me my Instagram page. "Jenny Morrison from my yoga class just sent me this asking if you're my mother. She wants to commission a dress." Jenny Morrison. I knew that name. She was married to a city councilman, moved in the same social circles as Kate. The same circles that had quietly excluded me for years. "I'm sewing," I said simply. "Sewing what?" "You don't have a sewing machine." I gestured around the room at Dorothy's beautiful machines, all humming with activity. "I do now." Kate's eyes widened as she took in the setup for the first time. The machines, the fabric, the half-finished garments hanging from every available surface, the professional lighting I'd installed, the organized workspace that looked nothing like the concrete box she'd dumped me in. Where did all this come from? It was here when I moved in. The previous owners left it. That's impossible. We had the place cleaned out. I finally looked up at her, meeting her eyes directly. Adam said there were a few boxes left. Nothing important. I guess he was wrong about the importance part. Kate's face was going through a series of interesting expressions. Confusion, recognition, and something that might have been panic. "Mom, you can't run a business out of here. This is residential property, and there are zoning laws. Actually, it's zoned for mixed use," I interrupted, pulling out the paperwork Mrs. Patterson had helped me file. "And I have all the proper licenses and permits." I checked. The silence stretched between us like a held breath. Behind Kate, I could see Adam whispering something to Diane, who was staring at my setup with what looked like genuine admiration. "How long have you been doing this?" Kate asked finally. 3 weeks. 3 weeks? And you already have all these customers? The word came out like she was saying plague carriers. "Turns out people appreciate quality work," I said, turning back to my hemming. "Funny how that works. But Mom, this is..." She was struggling with something, and I could see the wheels turning. "This is actually kind of impressive." Kind of impressive. From someone else, it might have been a compliment. From Kate, it sounded like she was admitting I wasn't completely worthless, and even that admission seemed to pain her. "Thank you," I said, my voice flat. "Maybe we could... if you're making money at this, maybe we could talk about getting you set up somewhere more appropriate, a real studio space." Now it was my turn to be quiet. I set down my needle and looked at her. Really looked at her. My daughter, who 3 weeks ago had told me I was used to misery and should be grateful not to be on the street, was now suggesting I deserved something better because I'd proven I could be profitable. "I'm comfortable here," I said finally. "But Mom, this is just a storage room. You deserve better than..." "Do I?" The question came out sharper than I'd intended. 3 weeks ago, you told me I was used to making do with less. You told me I should be grateful for this room. What's changed? Kate's face flushed. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. I stood up, smoothing down the dress I was working on. And you were right, in a way. I am used to making do with less. I'm used to being underestimated. I'm used to being invisible. I walked closer to her, and for the first time in years, she actually took a step back. "But here's what you didn't count on, sweetheart. Sometimes being invisible is exactly what you need to build something they can't tear down." I gestured around the room, at the evidence of everything I'd accomplished while she was playing house with her replacement mother. "I like it here," I said quietly. "I like the quiet. I like the privacy. I like not having to be grateful for anything." Kate opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't finished. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Real work. Important work. The kind of work that people actually value. She stood there for another moment, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, before finally turning and walking away. Adam and Diane followed, but not before Diane caught my eye and nodded, a small gesture that might have been respect. After they left, I went back to my sewing, but my hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear or sadness, but from something else entirely. Power. For the first time in my adult life, I had something that was completely mine. Something they couldn't take away or diminish or make me feel grateful for. And I was just getting started. 2 months later, my world had exploded into something I'd never dared to dream. The storage room that was supposed to be my grave had become my launching pad, and I was flying higher than I'd ever imagined possible. The turning point came on a Tuesday morning in August. I was working on a custom gown for the mayor's wife when my phone buzzed with a notification that made my heart stop. Luna Solaria tagged you in a post. Luna Solaria. The Luna Solaria. Multi-platinum recording artist, fashion icon, 23 years old with 15 million Instagram followers. I clicked on the notification with trembling fingers. There she was, standing on what looked like a red carpet, wearing my dress. The burgundy silk creation I'd poured my soul into 3 weeks earlier, the one a client had commissioned and then never picked up. I'd posted it on my Instagram as available, and apparently Luna's stylist had seen it, bought it, and put one of the most famous women in America in my creation. The caption read, "Obsessed with this incredible piece from Or Atelier Donatella, a true artist creating magic in Phoenix. This dress makes me feel like absolute royalty. Sature custom made. Support small business. Atelier Donatella." Within hours, my phone had become unusable. Notifications flooded in faster than I could read them. Orders, interview requests, collaboration offers, licensing deals. My follower count jumped from 8,000 to over 100,000 in a single day. By evening, I had 300 new orders, a request from Vogue for an interview, and a call from a production company wanting to document my journey for a streaming series. I was sitting in my concrete kingdom, surrounded by chaos and opportunity, when Kate appeared in my doorway. But this wasn't the dismissive Kate from 2 months ago, or even the grudgingly impressed Kate from our last conversation. This was someone I'd never seen before, someone who looked desperate. Mom. Her voice was different, smaller. "Can we talk?" I looked up from the order forms I was sorting. "I'm busy." "I know, I can see that." "Mom, this is incredible." "Luna Solaria? Do you realize how big this is?" "I'm aware." She stepped into the room uninvited, looking around at the transformation. I'd expanded beyond Dorothy's original setup: professional dress forms, industrial lighting, a computer station for managing orders, bolts of fabric organized by color and type. It looked like what it was, the headquarters of a rapidly growing fashion empire. "Mom, I owe you an apology." I kept sorting orders, not looking at her. For what? For not seeing this. For not believing in you. For treating you like... She struggled with the words. Like I was used to misery? Like I should be grateful for scraps? Her face crumpled slightly. Yes, for that. I finally looked at her, studying her expression. Real tears. Genuine distress. But underneath it, I could see something else. Calculation. Need. "Apology noted," I said, turning back to my work. "Mom, that's it? You're trying to what, Kate? Make amends? Fix our relationship?" I set down my papers and faced her fully. "Or are you trying to figure out how to get a piece of what I've built?" The silence stretched between us like a wire under tension. "That's not... of course I'm proud of you, but what?" She took a breath, and I could see her shifting into negotiation mode. "Mom, this could be so much bigger. You're operating out of a storage room. With the right backing, the right connections, this could be a real empire. I know people. I have contacts in marketing, in social media management. Adam has business connections. We could help you scale this properly." There it was. Scale this how? Well, you'd need investors, obviously. Proper workspace, employees, manufacturing partnerships. The whole thing would need to be restructured as a real corporation, with proper management. Management like you? Another pause. I do have an MBA, Mom, and I understand business in a way that, well, in a way that you might not. I almost smiled. Almost. After 2 months of building something extraordinary from nothing, she was still talking to me like I was the helpless woman she'd stuffed in a storage room. Tell me, Kate, in this fantasy empire of yours, what happens to me? What do you mean? I mean, where do I fit in your corporate restructuring? Am I the founder, the creative director, or am I the little old lady you parade around for photo ops while you run the real business? Mom, that's not... Because here's the thing about your offer. I stood up and she instinctively stepped back. I don't need your backing. I don't need your connections. And I sure as hell don't need your management. I walked to my computer and pulled up my business dashboard. Orders, revenue, projections, all growing at a rate that would make Fortune 500 companies jealous. This little storage room operation is on track to gross $2 million this year. Next year, if I wanted to scale, and notice I said if I wanted to, I'm looking at 5 to 8 million. All of it mine, all of it under my control. All of it built while you were playing house with your replacement mother. Kate's face went white. Mom, I never what? Never replaced me? Never made it clear that Diane was the grandmother you actually wanted for your children? Never treated me like an embarrassing burden you were stuck with? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. Fair was 34 years of being your mother. Fair was co-signing your mortgage when I couldn't afford my own rent. Fair was babysitting your children for free while you built your career. Fair was sacrificing my dreams for your comfort, over and over again, until I forgot I'd ever had dreams at all. She was crying now, real tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Mom, please. I know I made mistakes, but we're family. Family. I tasted the word like poison. Is that what we are? Because family doesn't put family in storage rooms. Family doesn't laugh when family loses everything. Family doesn't tell family they're used to misery. I was wrong. I admit it. I was completely wrong, and I'm sorry. Sorry. I nodded slowly. You're sorry. And what exactly do you think sorry gets you? She looked at me with something approaching panic. I just want us to be okay again. I want to be close to you again. No, you don't. I moved closer to her, close enough that she could see I wasn't the broken woman she'd discarded 2 months ago. You want to be close to my success. You want to attach yourself to what I've built so you can take credit for it, manage it, profit from it, just like you've done your entire adult life. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me, Kate, when did you start caring about having a relationship with me? Was it before or after Luna Solaria posted that photo? She opened her mouth, then closed it, unable to answer. You know what the beautiful thing about success is? I said quietly. It shows you who people really are. When I was broken and desperate, needing help, needing family, needing love, you gave me a concrete box and told me to be grateful. Now that I'm successful, now that I have something you want, suddenly you remember we're family. I walked to the door and held it open. But here's what you don't seem to understand, sweetheart. I don't need family anymore. I don't need your approval, your support, or your love. I built this without you, and I'll continue building it without you. Mom, please. The woman who would have forgiven you, who would have been grateful for your attention, who would have handed over everything she built just to feel loved again. I met her eyes one last time. You buried her in this storage room 2 months ago. What you're talking to now is someone else entirely. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming, mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Finally, she whispered, "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. Absolutely nothing. That's the point. After she left, I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to her footsteps fade away. Through my small window, I could see her walking back to the main house, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no sadness. Just a cold, clean emptiness where love and hope used to live. I had work to do, orders to fill, an empire to build, and I was going to build it exactly the way I wanted to, without apologies, without gratitude, and without family. 6 months later, I stood in the marble lobby of the most exclusive building in downtown Phoenix, signing a lease for the entire 15th floor. 2,000 square feet of prime real estate with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, soon to become the flagship atelier for what had grown into a fashion empire worth $12 million. The transformation had been swift and merciless. After Luna Solaria, the orders never stopped coming. Celebrities, politicians' wives, socialites, influencers, everyone wanted a piece of what I was creating. I'd hired 12 seamstresses, all women over 50 who'd been told they were too old for the fashion industry. Together, we were rewriting the rules. But the real victory wasn't the money or the fame. It was the phone call I'd received that morning. "Mrs. Cornell?" The voice was professional, clipped. "This is Patricia Morrison from Morrison & Associates. We represent your daughter Kate and her husband Adam, regarding some financial difficulties they're experiencing." I'd listened without comment as she explained their situation. The house they couldn't afford, the mortgage they'd defaulted on, the credit card debt that had spiraled out of control, Diane's investment advice that had wiped out their savings in a cryptocurrency scheme, the pending foreclosure notice. "Mrs. Cornell, your daughter asked me to reach out because she believes you might be willing to help with a loan. Given your recent business success." I'd hung up without responding. Now, as I walked through my new space, imagining where the cutting tables would go, where the fitting rooms would be positioned, I felt the last piece of my transformation click into place. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too hot, too consuming. What I felt now was something far more dangerous: complete indifference. My phone buzzed. A text from Kate. "Mom, please call me. It's urgent. We need to talk." I deleted it without reading it twice. 3 hours later, as I was meeting with the contractor about custom lighting, Kate appeared in the lobby downstairs. The security guard called up to ask if I wanted to see her. "Send her up," I said. It was time to finish this. She looked terrible. The perfectly styled hair was limp and unwashed. The designer clothes had been replaced with discount store substitutes. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights, and there was a frantic energy about her that I recognized. Desperation. "Mom." She rushed toward me as the elevator doors opened. "Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I've been busy." I gestured around the space. "As you can see." She looked around, taking in the scope of what I was building, and I saw something die in her eyes. This wasn't the storage room business she could dismiss or co-opt. This was undeniable success on a scale that dwarfed anything she'd ever accomplished. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to listen." "I'm listening." "We're losing the house." The words tumbled out in a rush. "Adam lost his job 3 months ago. Diane convinced us to invest our savings in some cryptocurrency thing that turned out to be a scam. We've maxed out our credit cards. We're behind on the mortgage, and the bank is foreclosing next month." I nodded but said nothing. The kids, Emma and Jake, they don't understand what's happening. Emma asked me yesterday if we were going to be homeless. I didn't know what to tell her. Still nothing from me. "Mom, I know I have no right to ask this. I know I treated you terribly, but you're the only family we have. You're the only one who can help us." "Help you how?" "Alone. Just enough to catch up on the mortgage and get back on our feet. I know you have it. This whole empire you've built. Mom, you could save us." I walked to the window and looked out at the city spreading below me. Somewhere out there, Dorothy Kleinfeld was buried in a cemetery, never knowing that her abandoned dreams had become the foundation for mine. "How much?" I asked without turning around. 200,000. Maybe 250 to be safe. I turned back to face her. "And what would I get in return?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what's in it for me? You want $250,000. What are you offering in exchange?" Kate's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, hope, calculation. "Well, we'd pay you back, of course, with interest." "When?" "When we get back on our feet. When Adam finds another job." "So never." "That's not—" "Mom, this is family money we're talking about. This is helping your grandchildren." "My grandchildren." I smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. The same grandchildren you made sure I barely knew? The same grandchildren who called Diane grandma while I was mom's mom? Those grandchildren? Mom, please. Tell me, Kate, where was family when I lost my husband? Where was family when I lost my job? Where was family when I was facing homelessness and desperation? That was different. How was it different? You didn't have kids to think about. The silence that followed was profound. Even the construction noise from the floor below seemed to fade away. I didn't have kids to think about, I repeated slowly. I see. That came out wrong. No, it came out exactly right. Because you're right, in a way. I don't have kids to think about. Not anymore. I walked closer to her, close enough to see the panic building in her eyes. You know what I realized sitting in that storage room you put me in? I realized that I'd spent 34 years being your mother, and you'd spent 34 years being my project, my purpose, my reason for existing. Mom. But projects end, Kate. And when they do, you get to see what you actually built. What did 34 years of motherhood get me? A daughter who thought I was used to misery? A daughter who laughed when I lost everything? A daughter who gave a stranger the love and respect she never gave me? Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I was horrible, but people change. I've changed. Have you? Or are you just scared? What? Are you sorry because you hurt me? Or are you sorry because you need something from me? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady and cold. You're going to lose the house. You're going to face the consequences of every choice you made, every kindness you rejected, every bridge you burned. And I'm going to watch it happen with the same detachment you showed when my world fell apart. You can't mean that. I mean every word. You taught me that family is conditional, that love has to be earned, that people are only worth helping when they're worth something. Congratulations. You were an excellent teacher. What about Emma and Jake? They're innocent in this. They have a grandmother who loves them. Diane can help them. Diane's broke too. The cryptocurrency thing cleaned her out worse than us. She's probably going to have to move in with her sister in Nebraska. Perfect. Even better than I'd hoped. Then I guess they'll learn early what you taught me late. That the only person you can count on is yourself. Kate fell to her knees then, literally begging. Mom, please. I'll do anything. I'll give you anything. What do you want? The house? You can have the house. Just help us. I looked down at her, this woman who had once been my whole world, and felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. There's nothing you have that I want, I said. Nothing you are that I need. Nothing you can give that I haven't already taken for myself. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. You should go. I have a business to run, an empire to build, a life to live. As the elevator doors opened, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Kate, when you're packing up that house, you'll find some boxes in the storage room. Personal items of the previous owner, make sure they get to charity. Someone might actually appreciate them. The doors closed on her sobbing, and I rode down to the lobby in perfect silence. That evening, I sat in my new office, looking out at the city lights, thinking about Dorothy Kleinfeld and her letter. Create something beautiful, she'd written. I had. I'd created a life that was completely my own, built on my own terms, answerable to no one. I'd created a future where I would never again be grateful for scraps, never again invisible, never again disposable. Outside, Phoenix sparkled like a constellation fallen to earth, and I was its brightest star, alone, successful, untouchable, unforgiving, exactly as it should be.